Every day on this channel, I go through everything Elon said on X in the last 24 hours. And here's how many times Elon posted about each subject today. I'll go over everything he said about each topic before moving on to the next one. And starting with politics, Kobe Thatcher says, "Don't be afraid of being called far right." These days, far right simply means normal. And Elon says, yup. Peter Sweden says what the left calls far right is usually just something called common sense. And Elon agrees. Here's somebody on the left holding a sign that reads, "Give fascists a platform." That platform being a bloody guillotine. And Wokeness says a sizable portion of the left thinks this way. Be aware of this, and Elon reposted this. He says the left is the party of violence. And he said this in response to a new story emerging. Screenshots came up of some of the text that the Democrats' nominee for their Virginia Attorney General, his name is Jay Jones, and they're the screenshots that he sent in 2022 threatening the former House Republican Party Speaker. And here are the private messages which offer a disturbing glimpse into how Jones, who is looking to oust incumbent Republican Attorney General Jason Miyares this fall, describes his political adversaries in private conversations. So Jay is texting in the white. The sender said, "I didn't look at that, I just saw a guy died and assumed you'd have words." Jay said he was a D. "They say nice things about everyone, lol." Jay said, "If those guys die before me, I will go to their funerals to piss on their graves. Send them out a wash and something." So the sender sort of calls him out, and Jay continues. 3 people, 2 bullets. Gilbert, Hitler, and Pol Pot. Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the head. Spoiler, put Gilbert in the crew with the 2 worst people you know, and he receives both bullets every time. Jay, please stop. He says, okay. It really bothers me when you talk about hurting people or wishing death on them. Later in the conversation, the sender said, "You weren't trying to understand. You were talking about hoping Jennifer Gilbert's children would die." Jay said, "Yes, I've told you this before. Only when people feel pain personally do they move on policy." He then said, do I think Todd and Jennifer are evil and that they are breeding little fascists? Yes. Data Hazard says when you recognize that fascist is just their slur for white people, their ideology is much more comprehensible. And Elon reposted that. And Eric Erickson says a politician got arrested for doing 116 miles per hour in a 45 mile per hour zone. Sentenced to 1,000 hours of community service in lieu of prison, he devoted 500 of those hours to his own political campaign, obfuscating to the court about how he did his community service. He also not only texted a colleague about murdering other politicians, but when the recipient of the text messages objected, he called her to argue the point, insisting his opponents were worthy of assassination. But the politician is Jay Jones, a Democrat in Virginia. So what would be a national news story were he a Republican, with Manu Raju of CNN and others shoving microphones in the faces of congressmen on Capitol Hill, demanding to know if they condemn him, will instead be a local story, so local that even the major press outlets in Virginia tried to avoid it. And Elon quoted that saying, "Jay Jones is a horrible person." And the Virginia Beach Democrats issue a statement which reaffirms its full support for Jay Jones for Attorney General, and calls on all Virginians to line up behind Jay Jones. Just so we're all clear where the Democratic Party is on all of this. And Elon said, "Message received." And many perceive the breeding of little fascists to be a problem in the United States. One of them is Billy Jensen, who says to J.K. Rowling, "Can you put the same energy towards fighting fascism? We are having a bit of a moment over here." So Rowling responds, "Fighting fascism? It must be so hard in the trenches, knee deep in mud, just bullets flying all around you. It's great you still find time to tweet though. Fighting J.K. Rowling in writing is like fighting Aquaman in the water." And Elon has a laugh at that one. The extreme left might also say there's no such thing as the English race. But also, the English race owes the black race 19 trillion pounds. And Elon raises an eyebrow at that one. And I'm curious, if you went to school in the 70s, 80s, or 90s, how many kids did you know with gender dysphoria? Gunther says, "I didn't know one." And Stephen Mark Ryan says, "Kids who didn't fit in used to be punks or metalheads or goths or emos. Now they are told that if they're different or don't fit in, they've been born in the wrong body and should mutilate, sterilize, and hate themselves. Back then it was a haircut, dye, and some clothing. Now it's hormones and surgery." And Elon reposted that. And he also didn't meet any kids growing up with gender dysphoria. And a lot of it starts with the teachers in school. You have woke teachers and then you get trans kids. So Natalie suggests homeschooling, and Elon says, yup. Somebody used to just declare that they are gay. So Chad would ask, do I have to do anything? And the gay person said, nope. So Chad said, all right. And now people are declaring that they are trans. So Chad says, do I have to do anything? Yes, you must use my made-up pronouns, admit that I can get pregnant, let me into women's spaces, and have sex with me. And Chad says, nope. And Elon reposted this. And here a mom shares that her toddler came out as trans at just 18 months old.
And what age do you think most trans kids determine that they're trans?
Violet told us when she was 1.5. She's been telling us since she could speak. So she knew since birth.
What motivated you to come out here today?
We're supporting our child, Violet, and her access to the medical care that she needs.
We're here for her rights and her ability to be who she is. She's not going to let anybody silence her, and we're not going to stand in her way.
Elon said kids can barely talk at 18 months, let alone know anything about gender. Those parents are guilty of child abuse. Optimus posted this meme. My body, my choice, right dear? No, COVID is different. Why? It's about others' life, not ours. Like a baby's. You're a racist. And this duck asks, how come you never read books at nursing homes? Or to the homeless? Or to the sick and to the needy? Why is it only the little kids? And Elon reposted that as well. And Grum said, I've never been far right and I've never been full left. I was in the center left and they changed, calling me and millions of others Nazis. I don't fully agree with the right on everything, but we have to choose. I choose the party that isn't trying to kill everyone and destroy civilization. This is why I voted for the president they tried to assassinate. And Elon said same. And then Grum said, looking back, this is how they took over. They funded and infiltrated the judges. They funded and infiltrated the schools. They funded and infiltrated movies, games, and books. If you want this to stop, you have to tackle all three, and you better do it quick. So Elon agreed, and then Knowledge Archive responded to Grum's, and they said, you need to first stop the funding. The rest is pointless unless root cause is addressed. And Elon replied saying, suggestions are welcome. And Stephen Miller says there is now a very large and growing movement of left-wing terrorism in this country. It is well organized and funded, and it is shielded by far-left Democrat judges, prosecutor and attorney generals. The only remedy is to use legitimate state power to dismantle terrorism and terror networks. God and country said the only way, quoting Nayib Bukele, who said if you don't impeach the corrupt judges, you cannot fix the country. They will form a cartel, otherwise known as a judicial dictatorship, and block all reforms, protecting the systemic corruption that put them in their seats. And Elon says 100. Eric says we need to Bukele our court system. Watch how quickly this country is fixed. Elon said it's essential. Mike says who agrees this needs to happen? Elon says 1,000%. Wall Street Mav says the only federal court in the country required by the Constitution is the Supreme Court. Every other federal court is created by and accountable to Congress. Why isn't the Republican House majority impeaching every single one of these rogue Democrat federal judges? And Elon reposted that question. Tim Pool said, what do you call it when states order their law enforcement to resist federal authority? Police are instructed to target feds for prosecution, and governors launch legal challenges to assert command of National Guard over the president. And Elon said, it's called treason. And this guy has a message for America. His sign reads, this is the USA. There is no one coming to our rescue if things go sideways. No one will be resupplying us. No one will airdrop food, ammunition, and medicine. There is no place to escape to for freedom. This is it. And Elon said, yes. And meanwhile, C3 says that Trump is sending National Guard troops to cities due to extreme crime. The last Republican mayor in those cities, there's never been one in D.C., it's been 94 years in Chicago, 45 years in Portland, 54 years in Memphis, and 24 years in LA. You see a trend? Everything the Democrats touch, ... and Elon reposted it. And the flag installations have begun at Steak and Shake. Every Steak and Shake is getting the tallest and biggest American flag that local governments will allow. Steak and Shake proudly supports American values and traditions. Elon says, I'm ordering from there tomorrow. And he also responded with a heart and an American flag. And Oilfield Rando says the thing that really sent the Democrats over the edge was this: the attempted assassination on Trump. They can call Trump a lot of things, but they can never call him a coward, because he passed that test. 9,999 out of 10,000 politicians would fail that test, but Trump passed it, and it made them insane. And Elon said, true. And Real Robert said this right here is the single greatest crime ever perpetrated against the American people. Border czar Tom Homan says no one ever talks about it. I'll talk about it. Why did they release people into the interior United States rather than put them into an immigration customs enforcement bed? Why not put them in an empty ice bed for $127 a night rather than a hotel at $500 a night? The Biden administration did it on purpose. If you put them in an ICE detention bed, they get a hearing in 35 days. The left is evil. And Elon said, wow. And on the topic of immigration in Denmark increases rents significantly at the municipal level, much less so at the neighborhood level, because natives flee, and does not increase private housing supply. It is responsible for 62% of the rise in Danish housing prices since '99. So Captive Dreamer says that's fascinating because I was specifically told this was not happening. And Elon reposted that. And he also reposted this, which totally cracked me up. The Beggingston Post's headline reads, "The Shire faces population collapse. Goblins and orcs will fix it. Oppressively hobbito-normative society must be fixed with infinite influx of new folk no matter where they come from." So there's more folks in the Shire. This is good because it makes the numbers go up. What numbers? It doesn't matter as long as they go up, which is a good thing. Trending now, changing tastes of the Shire's youth. Pony population in a free fall. And Elon's talked a lot about NGOs and how they're a giant fraud loophole. The government can send money to an NGO that is no longer governed by the laws of the United States. So somebody asked him, has USAID's Doge team found any evidence that any of the radical left Democrats, such as Maxine Waters or Adam Schiff or Chuck Schumer or Nancy Pelosi, have received money directly from USAID? Elon replied, I am highly confident that a bunch of that money comes back to the US and lands in the pockets of those you've just mentioned. I'll just say there's a lot of strangely wealthy members of Congress. And Elon reposted this. Then Megastorm reports an insane bombshell. Barack Obama was using USAID as a front to launder money through the Cayman Islands, all while pretending it was foreign aid. So apparently that money didn't go to help anyone, it went straight into creating and training rent-a-riot mobs used to overthrow governments. Mike Benz went on Joe Rogan, and he said during the Obama USAID era, we were running rogue operations in Cuba. USAID pumped $1.2 billion into activist groups, teaching them how to use Facebook, Twitter, hashtags, and coordinate street protests. All of it was structured to fool the American people, Congress, and even the White House. Obama even secretly funded a Twitter clone for Cuba. It was called Zunzuneo, slang for hummingbird. Built to look like it came from Cubans. First it pushed harmless content like sports and weather, then it flipped to political propaganda, organizing dissent and fueling mass protests. And the kicker was that they routed the money through Cayman Islands accounts, claiming it was Pakistani aid while secretly funding digital psyops and street uprisings. Once enough users were on board, the entire network was turned into a tool for manufactured uprisings, creating rent-a-riots on demand. This is how governments were toppled. This is how your tax dollars were spent. And this is only the surface of what Mike Benz breaks down in detail. This is one of the most insane scandals of the Obama era, and Elon says true. And Denise would like to know what this yoga pose is called. Luke says that's the American taxpayer, and Elon has a laugh at that one. And one more post quickly on Jay Jones. Data Republican said, do not sleep on this. If we lose Virginia's Attorney General race, we hand the law to people who believe in murdering the children of those they disagree with. Get out and vote for Jason Miyares. And Elon says what Jay Jones said is evil. And Thomas Sowell says, if I were rich, I would have a plaque made up and sent to every judge in America, bearing a statement made by Adam Smith more than 2.5 centuries ago. Mercy to the guilty is cruelty to the innocent. And Elon said, true. Matt Walsh says, to recap, Democrat-appointed parole board releases a homicidal maniac who murdered a 6-year-old boy by stabbing him in the head. Democrat-appointed judge gives just 8 years in prison to a tranny who tried to assassinate Justice Kavanaugh. Democrat Attorney General candidate openly fantasizes about murdering his political opponents and their children. That's just over the past 3 days. When I say they want us dead, it's because they really do want us dead. Elon says yes. And Luke reports that a Biden judge spent 7 hours today justifying a shocking 22-year downward departure from sentencing guidelines for the man who attempted to kill Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, at one point saying she was glad the crime made his mom accept his transgender identity. The judge cited psychology research to minimize terrorists, said the U.S. Sentencing Commission hadn't shown her the evidence it relied on in '95, justifying why long sentences for terrorists are necessary, and said the Supreme Court couldn't make her follow sentencing guidelines. She said Roski was getting a light sentence in part because he's transgender and could be denied female hormones in prison and not be placed in a women's prison, even though Roski is attracted to women, not men, and prison policy is still trans-friendly thanks for an injunction. Elon said, wow. And God bless El Salvador and the President Bukele for putting his citizens first.
What about the human right of a woman not to be raped? I mean, what about the human right of kids to play or to be free or to go to the park? And what about the human right to live or the human right to walk in the street, right? But no, they were worried about the human rights of the killers.
And Elon reposted that. And Washington Post says that some rank-and-file DC officers and detectives have complained for months, in some cases years, that managers were recording serious crimes as more minor ones to make their police districts appear safer or avoid the ire of top department brass. Elon said false reporting has been happening at a very large scale. And speaking of false reporting, the media said Tesla would fail. Today it's worth $1.4 trillion. The media said SpaceX would fail. Today it dominates the space industry. The media said X would fail, and today it's the #1 source for news. They never stop lying, and they're always wrong. And Elon quoted that saying, I'm just lucky. And here's Darth Vader sitting in a meadow drinking some tea with his pinkies up, watching the shit he predicted unfold after everyone told him he was crazy. And Elon has a laugh at that one. And FBI Director Kash Patel says MSNBC is still an ass clown factory of disinformation. It started when MSNBC confirmed that an FBI agent in the Washington field office had been fired for refusing to arrest and perp walk James Comey. Barb McQuaid says Department of Justice policy prohibits perp walks, in which arrestees are paraded before the cameras. So that's when Kash Patel said that MSNBC is still an ass clown factory. The same circus animals that slobbered all over perp walks of Stone, Navarro, and Bannon. MSNBC has no facts and no audience. In this FBI, follow the chain of command or get relieved. And Elon reposted this. And Elon's been tackling news, and now he's going after knowledge. Grokipedia is going to be the world's biggest, most accurate knowledge source, says XFreeze, for humans and AI with no limits on use. Currently, Grok is using massive amounts of inference compute to look at sources like Wikipedia and ask what's true, partially true, false, or missing. Then it rewrites those pages, removing falsehoods, correcting half-truths, and adding crucial and missing context. The reason why it will be the true knowledge source is because it's built solely for the truth and to navigate to the truth, free from bias or hidden agendas. Elon never does anything by half measures. He dives straight to the full extent. Something that will strike like a sharp spear, just like the community notes on X, which even called out the World Health Organization for shoving false info down our throats with the tag carrying "We are always right." With Grok, Grokipedia aims for maximum truth through first principles and physics. It replaces partially masked evidences of how legacy media operates, rewriting with complete accurate context that cuts through the bullshit. This will combat the evil organizations who've poisoned our minds for decades with endless fake news and distorted narratives through legacy media and Wikipedia, causing immense harm to young minds and manipulated the world long enough. This will change for good. Grokipedia will change it. So Elon quoted that and he said version 0.1 early beta of Grokipedia will be published in 2 weeks. And Doge Designer answers why the world needs Grokipedia. Wikipedia just isn't the neutral source of truth that it once was. It's been taken over by far-left activists and often used as a propaganda tool, not an unbiased encyclopedia. And a lot of AIs today get their info from the internet, but the web is full of unfair views, wrong facts, and tons of junk. Grokipedia will be an open-source encyclopedia focused solely on the truth, and it won't be controlled by any activist or political bias. It will be open source and free for all to use. a truly public resource without limits. XAI's ultimate mission is to understand the universe, and that requires honest, unfiltered information. Grokipedia is a crucial step towards that goal because you can't build a truthful AI on biased information. The vision is for Grokipedia to become the global standard for knowledge. One day every person and every AI system could rely on it as a trusted source of truth. Seeking truth is the greatest mission of all, and that's what Grokipedia stands for. And it's coming. Elon said exactly. And MJ put Grok to the test because Grok is going to be building Grokipedia. So let's start with this Wikipedia article here about Jack Posobiec and use this link to validate each statement and source used by Wikipedia. And then tell us how biased this article is. So Grok says it's pretty biased, leaning heavily on sources like SPLC and the New York Times. So MJ says, show us an example then of how you would rewrite the entire article. So Grok rewrites the article in a balanced format, drawing from sources where people are actually critiquing the SPLC and New York Times articles. MJ says it's a great summary and asks Grok to rewrite the entire article. And Elon says it's a good response by Grok. And Grok Code Fast 1 and Grok 4 Fast continues to dominate the open router leaderboards, and Elon reposted this. He says major improvements across the board to Grok. You can download the updated app. And here's a Grok Imagine creation of a Grok data center when we reach Type 1 civilization on the Kardashev scale. Elon says Grok. And XFreeze says that Grok code generates the most aesthetic user interface designs. He built a stunning carousel with mesmerizing hover effects and glows. Just 2 prompts in Kylo code and it nailed every detail. And Elon reposted it. And he reposted more from XFreeze. He said Grok generates instant text, instant images, and instant videos. For the fastest text generation, use Grok 4 Fast. For the fastest video generation, use Imagine. And fastest image generation, scroll and watch images appear almost instantly with Grok Imagine. And he says as soon as you enter the Grok app, start talking instead of typing. It's so much easier. It's incredibly efficient and it truly simplifies the Grok experience. The Grok app is fully optimized for voice. So you can enable Open App in voice mode in your settings, and then it will automatically open in voice mode. And Elon said, yeah. And XAI is hiring people to build MacroHard. What is MacroHard? It's the much stronger AI equivalent of that other software company, Microsoft. And you might think, oh, there's Bill Gates. But no, it's actually Tim Cook. And he says Steve saw the future as a bright and boundless place. He lit the path forward and inspired us to follow. We miss you, my friend. And Elon reposted this. And Elon's mom, May Musk, was once asked if she could give advice to her younger self, what would it be? And she said that if you are in an unhappy situation, get out quick. Don't think it's going to change. You have to get out. And getting out of them could mean financial loss. It could mean you lose your friends. It could be because you are moving to a new city where you have no friends. And it still could be better than what you were in before. Accept the consequences, be responsible for yourself, but you can survive. And Elon reposted that. And here's some more advice. This is the absolute best advice for achieving a long-term goal, brought to you by Tolstoy. A man on a 1,000-mile walk has to forget his ultimate goal and say to himself every morning, today I'm going to cover 25 miles and then rest up and sleep. What are your long-term goals? Elon reposted this. And on the topic of long-term goals, here's every Elon Musk product. Number 12 being Hyperloop. Steven Sullivan said he's not developing the product of Hyperloop himself, but I wish. It's my favorite of all of his ideas. Elon said the Boring Company will make Hyperloop real. Long tunnels are a necessary precursor. Well, here's the world's largest high-speed train station in China. This is Chongqing East Railway Station, and Elon reposted it. And China has officially opened the tallest bridge in the world. It took under 4 years to construct. The bridge features a restaurant at the top, which is a whopping 2,600 feet above the river. And the bridge not only cuts a 2-hour drive to 2 minutes, but also features as a theme park with a glass skywalk. It has a high-speed glass elevator and a waterfall off of the side of the bridge. Oh, and visitors can also bungee jump off of it. Elon said, wow. And all he had to do was press that little button on his custom keyboard built just to reply on X. Wow being one of his most frequently used replies, as well as true, yes, yeah, concerning, cool, good question, 100. Elon replied to that saying true, yes, wow, exactly, absolutely, spot on. LMAO. But it's time to get serious. Yesterday, Ashik Elaswamy replied to that video of Optimus doing Kung Fu saying it's just the beginning. Once the AI models for self-driving and Optimus unify, it's going to be lit. So Omar highlighted this quote and he said, once the AI models for self-driving and Optimus unify, what? So Elon clarified, he said, unify in architecture, not in details. The parameters and activations will be different. And this is why it needed clarification, because lots of people were speculating. Tesla Yoda said, hold on, if Optimus version 3 has the FSD model, wouldn't it be able to sit in the driver's seat of any regular car of any make and drive it, like you and I? Elon said, probably. And Cleobug said, men need to be working real jobs again. Muscle and a shovel style jobs. Testosterone levels would rise and men would feel like they had a purpose again. Men yearn for the oil rigs and coal mines, not the Excel spreadsheets and 9-to-5 grind. We've neutered them, one business day at a time. Yunta said, be a Tesla AI engineer. Then you can be a technician, a construction worker, and a machine learning engineer all at once. And Elon reposted that. And he also reposted Stephen Mark Ryan's video on the Kung Fu demo. Stephen reminded us that, Tesla, or Elon for that matter, they don't post this video to try to bump the stock. They're not trying to impress Wall Street. Elon posted this video simply to recruit engineers. And back in the spring, Matt Van Swole's dad bought a Tesla. And he just got a phone call from his mom saying that a Chevy Tahoe smashed into the back of her, going 40 miles per hour while she was completely stopped in her Model 3. But she's completely unharmed. She thanked me for convincing Dad to get it and that it's the safest car she's ever had. And Elon reposted this. And he also reposted that some things are just so amazing it's hard to believe they are real. And it's a photo of Starship on the stand. Lewis says, rocket reusability isn't just an optimization, it's a phase transition. When you throw rockets away, you are limited by factory throughput, like 16 rockets a year. But reuse them and you enter a different regime of launch volume, economics, and ambition. Look at how many more launches that SpaceX is doing with reused boosters compared to new boosters. And it's growing exponentially. Elon said so few understand the implications even when stated as clearly as it is below. And Yunta says a multi-planet civilization offered a new evolution path that is not constrained by a single environment nor culture. Like reinforcement learning, we often place an agent in vastly different environments or gyms to generalize, and often exceed their skills learned from a single environment. Interplanetary civilizations will likely offer much needed evolution gyms to leapfrog from where we are now. And Elon quoted that with the shooting star emoji. Here's a shooting star right here. Just kidding, those are fireworks. Japan never fails to amaze with its fireworks, but community notes added some context. This video is computer generated. It was created in 2014 using a fireworks simulation software. But before that context was added, Elon thought it was beautiful. And where he loves fireworks, he despises QR codes. He calls them an eyesore. Peter Sweden said, I'm never ordering from a QR code menu at a restaurant. I want a physical fucking menu at a restaurant. None of this QR code bullshit. And Elon says, yes. And I'm sorry, guys, I can't think of any way to transition from QR code hatred to Grok Imagine updates. But Grok Imagine just got an update from 0.1 to version 0.9. And Tetsuo says that it is incredible. Elon says, try the new Grok Imagine by downloading the latest app version. And Tetsuo shows us one more creation that Elon reposted. Dang it, I forgot about this post. This was the opportunity for the transition. I could have said, can we all say a prayer for Elon? He's getting spammed with QR codes. He saved free speech. He exposed government corruption and has used his platform to promote families and having children. It's incredible. Now he's exposed Netflix for promoting transgenderism to children. God bless you, Elon. And Elon shows him some love. And now the right-wing party in the Czech Republic has won the election. The right-wing Freedom Party won the election in Austria. The right-wing party is leading the polls in the Netherlands. The right-wing AfD party is number 1 in the latest poll in Germany. This is also happening in France. An anti-woke party is rising in Spain. The right-wing Swedish Democrats are now the second largest party. A political earthquake is happening in Europe. And Elon reposted this. And Tommy Robinson, he's fighting for right-wing values in Britain. and Sean McGuire proudly stands with him. He's followed Tommy for many years, and he says if you ever take the time to listen to him at length, you'll quickly realize he's a man of principle and one of the West's bravest warriors. Tommy, thank you for the courage and for fighting for the West, and Elon responds with a British flag. So, that's everything that Elon said today. We had Jay Jones. That was a pretty wild story. He's a Democrat running for Attorney General in Virginia and was supposedly sending private texts to people inciting violence on other people's kids, his competitors. Elon reposted a lot of questions and a lot of statements regarding the impeachment of judges. Why isn't that happening more? Why are Republicans not trying to do that? How many seats do they need? I'm sure we'll learn more about this tomorrow. The interest in that idea seems to be building. Grokipedia is 2 weeks away, and Tesla unveiling whatever the heck this is just 2 days away. A lot of people think that's probably going to be the Tesla Roadster. I was making a joke saying, plot twist, it's a GPU. It could be, but it's more likely it's the Roadster because, there's going to be SpaceX technology. You heard that audio. Could be that the Roadster can float. Stationary floating, that is. But anyways, let's wrap this video up. And I'm proud of this video. This was a fun video. And so what I want to do is ask you guys, because I never ask for things. I've actually never asked you guys to click the like button on any video ever. But let's try to get 2,000 likes on this video. And the reason I'm asking is because I'm curious to see if me asking and you guys unifying, coming together and helping push Elon's message in this video to more people. Let's see what kind of power that has. So let's see if we can get 2,000 likes, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.